Hello, and welcome to the Travel Tips and Trips podcast. In this podcast, I share destination deep dives, provide you with insider travel tips and recommendations, and share some of my own travel experiences along the way. In today's episode, I thought it would be fun to take to the internet and react to some of the most unpopular travel opinions floating around out there. As travelers, we all have our own preferences, our own quirks, our own travel pet peeves, if you will, and sometimes those opinions can be fairly divisive. From the best way to experience a new city to the most overrated tourist attractions, the online community has some strong opinions, specifically on Reddit because, well, it's Reddit, and if you know, you know. So settle in with a cup of piping hot tea, maybe a cocktail, a mocktail if that's your vibe, and let's jump right into it. So the first post that I have here says, Unpopular opinion. I love being a tourist. I have my camera and my guidebook, and I don't care who's judging. And sure, some things off the beaten path are great, but I'm also here to see the Eiffel Tower and ride the London Eye. I actually tend to agree with this in some ways. Not sure if that's surprising or not, but I've always been the first person to say that tourist sites are tourist sites for a reason. It's not like the pyramids weren't all that interesting and then just became popular because tourists overhyped the location. Now, can it be frustrating to visit popular tourist sites and have to endure lineups and vendors and all of those types of things when you'd rather have an authentic cultural experience? Sure. Do I still feel like it's super important to take the time to visit places that are a little more off the beaten path if you want to truly get a feel for any one destination? Absolutely. But this idea that going to Paris and visiting the Eiffel Tower somehow makes you less of a true traveler, whatever that even means, is a little, dare I say, ridiculous to me. And to be clear, this is coming from someone who remembers feeling that way back when I first started traveling. It does pain me a little bit to say, but I have a very vivid memory of myself on my first trip to Thailand, standing on Khao San Road, which in itself is an incredibly touristy place to be, and yet I was judging people for going to McDonald's on their way home from the bar. In my mind, I remember thinking, how can someone come all the way to Thailand and eat McDonald's? When, in reality, many trips later and many long-haul trips later, I came to realize that I, too, would crave a taste of home, McDonald's, Burger King, a caramel macchiato from Starbucks, what have you, after being on the road for months, or spending 5 nights deep in the jungle with nothing but boiled eggs and curry cooked in bamboo over hand-dug fire pits. I feel like the assumptions that we make about other travelers when we know absolutely nothing about them is just so odd, honestly, because at the end of the day, every other person that I saw on Khao San Road that night was in a lot of ways just like me, in that they had taken a leap, gone on a plane, flown 24 hours overseas to a new place with different food, different culture, different language, and at that point in time there were no smartphones either, or at least no one really traveled with them, and no one traveled with laptops because there was no Wi-Fi anywhere. It would have just been nicer, I think, if I had stopped to consider how brave and adventurous they all were, as opposed to questioning why they might want a Big Mac after a night out. Anyways, longer tangent there than expected, but on to the next one, and along that same vein of being a good or bad traveler, this unpopular opinion reads, Unpopular opinion. It's okay to go to a place and just be there. You don't have to be going/doing or seeing the whole time. Also, my hotel room is more than just a place to sleep. I need downtime where I just sit in my room and read or something. Now, this one in particular is actually so interesting to me as someone who, for their profession, not only plans travel and once led group travel for so many different types of travelers, but also as someone who works with hotels and accommodations that are often trying to kind of bridge that gap between having somewhere comfortable to stay, but also not feeling like you have to be there all the time in order to get your money's worth. Personally, I like balance, especially when I'm looking at the second part of that statement. My hotel is more than just a place to sleep. When I first started traveling in my late teens, early 20s, I definitely had the outlook of your hotel or hostel just being a place to rest your head and nothing else. So paying for any extra creature comforts really weren't necessary, as I'd be out exploring all day and night, and that was great and saved me a lot of money on my travels at a time where I needed to be saving a lot of money. So definitely an added bonus there, but that also meant that after a long night of partying in Tamarindo, I was returning to sleep and then proceeding to be hungover in a hot, small, sweaty room with no access to safe drinking water should I be feeling dehydrated. And then, if it started raining or was raining for days on end, I was locked up in that same small hostel room with no privacy, no view, no air conditioning, and it just made it a lot easier for really bad weather to ruin a portion of that trip. Now, that's not to say that I need to travel in luxury everywhere that I go in order to enjoy myself, don't get me wrong, and that's also not to say that there isn't a time and place to just snag a bed in a dorm room. Time and place for everything, but when I have it in my budget, I do prefer to stay somewhere more comfortable, ideally with a bit of a view so that I can be hungover with air conditioning, for example, or enjoy some downtime in my room reading or listening to podcasts with a view of that rainstorm that swooped in to put an early end to my exciting day out. There are absolutely different types of travelers, though, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with someone spending their own money to go to a country and do nothing but lay out on the beach or read in their room if that's how they choose to spend their money. Now, what I will say, and this could be the controversial part, is that do I believe that someone who has chosen to fly to Indonesia, travel from the airport direct to their resort, and lay on the beach for 7 days, do I think that they can say that they've experienced Indonesia? Maybe not. Have they visited Indonesia? Yes, sure. But experienced, maybe I wouldn't go that far. But that's just me. I don't know. I would be interested to know what you guys think about this one. Is this just the same as me shaming Mr. and Mrs. Gotta Have a Big Mac on Kowsan Road? Or is it fair to say that visiting a country and experiencing a country are two different things? And actually, now that I have scrolled a little further through some of these unpopular opinions, I see one here that actually does say, unpopular opinion, we decided to go to McDonald's in every city that we go to and see how they are different. It's honestly really interesting. And another Redditor responded, I completely agree. I had the Italian chicken sandwich in Paris, Miami fries in Italy, and the same stuff you get all over the US in Miami. Why is the US menu so boring? Japan is the best. They put 2 new sandwiches out every few weeks. And in Bangkok, fun fact, it is the samurai burger. If you know, you know. So it sounds like I'm not alone in this. McDonald's, congratulations. You have redeemed yourself. Now I will move along. Okay, now this unpopular opinion. This is one that I can definitely get on board with. And this is one that I get so much heat for, especially where I live in Canada, because I feel like no one in my life agrees with me. But this unpopular opinion is, and I quote, Vegas is a hot, smelly, dirty, smoky hellscape. And I could not agree more. I could not dislike Las Vegas any more than I already do. I have been multiple times to Vegas to give it more than one chance to wow me because truly no one could believe that I didn't have fun there. But no. Vegas, and to be clear, I am talking about the Vegas Strip and your classic, like, casinos and pool parties Vegas. It just was not for me. It was too hot, too busy, too loud, too expensive for the experience, and I felt that way every single time. And it was just overall unenjoyable. And I know that there are so many people who disagree with me on this. I'm so sorry. But also, I'm not sorry. Hot, smelly, dirty, smoky hellscape, I agree. Convince me otherwise. So, did not expect this episode to get quite as heated as it did, but I hope that you found this to be entertaining And if you do, I will revisit this format and check out some other more unpopular opinions in a longer episode. But that's where I'm going to leave this short episode of Unpopular Travel Opinions. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, I would love for you to take a moment to subscribe here so that you never miss an episode. And consider following at Tips and Trips Pod over on Instagram for more travel tips and bonus content. And until the next episode of Travel Tips and Trips, stay great, travel safe, and I'll chat with you then.